Hey, what is going on, guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video I thought it'd be a good idea to take a look at some of the most game-breaking mistakes that I've been able to see from low elo players when doing my unranked to diamond series over on my stream for the past couple of weeks. Right now the account is plat 3, so we're going to be finishing up the series in the next couple of streams here. So if you're interested in checking out a stream, there's going to be a link down in the description below. As always, should be live as this video goes up as well. But in this video I just want to really focus on 5 of the biggest mistakes that I've seen so far when climbing from bronze to platinum. So one of the biggest things that I've seen so far that shows up in almost every single game is that most players just do not punish cooldowns or play off of openings really at all in the laning phase, and this is something that I think if you can start to do, it will instantly improve your game. So for example here, if I'm playing Echo and I'm going up against, say I'm going up against Zed in the laning phase, my opening or my window in that matchup to punish him is if he uses his W, he misses his Qs, that W is on a very long cooldown. He doesn't really have any trading potential after that W has been used. So once he uses that, if I can dodge out on the damage from that, then I can look to just play aggressive on him until that ability is back up. And it's really important to just find those windows in the laning phase and analyze them like before the game even starts. Think about your matchup and think about the windows that you will have to look to trade. Now, the amount of openings you have in the laning phase, it's going to change with every single matchup. It's not going to be the same for every single game. So you really just have to ask yourself, like you can do this in the loading screen, take a look at your matchup and just ask yourself, okay, if this champion uses that ability, can I look to trade with them after that? If they miss this ability, can I go in here? And if you can do that, it makes it so that in the laning phase, when they actually do end up missing one of those abilities, it's almost instant that you do look to punish that in lane. This is also where just learning 1 or 2 champions for your role and just sticking to those champions is so important, because it allows you to understand your champion's strengths in certain situations. It allows you to learn each and every matchup, and that's just really important for you to be able to improve and climb the fastest. So I'll just have a couple examples here in the background gameplay of these things happening in my recent games. The first game here is going up against this Katarina player, and as you notice, she just uses her Q, she jumps in, so immediately look to punish her for that. She doesn't really have any damage to follow up after that. So this will especially happen like when the enemy is trying to hard shove a wave. You'll notice this happen a ton. So if they just look to use their abilities on the wave and they don't try to hit you at all, and you're playing a champion who can just jump onto the opponent and punish that, then definitely look to abuse that in the early game there. You're gonna see me do that on Echo, just get a very easy solo kill onto Katarina. And keep in mind that this is like, I'm pretty sure this is like a plat game now. This is like either a high gold or plat game, so these things happen even when you get up to like gold and platinum. Another example here, going up against Kassadin, he rift walks forward, he doesn't hit me with it at all, so you can just look to jump on him, look to trade with him, try to wait out his spell shield there. As you can see, I do, to try to get maximum damage off on the trade, and then you're just gonna find yourself winning so many more trades in the laning phase if you can play off the enemy missing cooldowns. So for the second biggest thing I noticed is that players just don't really know how to roam, and they often choose terrible roam timings and they just lose games off of it. There's so many games to where the lane opponent I've been playing against will just look for a roam play. They'll lose 2 or 3 waves under their tower. I'll just be sitting mid. I'll be 2 levels up on the opponent. They'll come back to lane without getting a kill on their roam. It will be a wasted roam, and then all of a sudden I'll just solo kill them a couple times in lane and the game will just be over. So a lot of players just try to roam way too much, and there's a couple things that you can do to make sure that your roams are a lot more successful. So the first thing you should look to do is when you're in the loading screen, just analyze your roam options. Take a look at the CC that your team has. The lane that does have the most CC is going to be the lane that is easiest for you to look to roam to a lot of the time. So for example, if you're playing mid, if your bot lane's playing something like a Nautilus support and they're playing something like a Jhin 80 carry, so much crowd control in that lane, so the chances of you picking up a kill when you roam is going to be really high. Same thing, take a look at your top laner. If they're playing something, say if they're playing a Teemo, like there's really no roam opportunity there really, or at least it's a lot less than a Nautilus Jhin lane. So in that situation there, you'd more so be looking to focus your bot lane due to the amount of heavy CC they have. So the golden rule to roaming is that you should always shove your wave under the enemy's tower before you look to make a roam play. By doing this, you're just gonna lose the least amount of gold and XP by looking for that roam play. Now, after you do that, dip into the fog of war and analyze your options. If you don't see a good roam opportunity, don't try to force things too much. I feel like a lot of players also just try to force roam plays way too much when there's just really no opportunity there. So if you don't see a good roam opportunity, or if the enemies just start backing off as you're like halfway down the river or something, then just go back to lane. You don't want to be just wasting time sitting down looking for a roam play if you're losing multiple waves in your lane. I feel like a lot of players just do not understand the value of being able to CS well and how much the XP and gold that you get from minions can get you a massive lead in the early game. If you're just able to hit like 80 CS at 10 minutes and the enemy laner is constantly only hitting like 50 CS, you're gonna be up like a couple hundred gold on the opponent. 15 CS is worth a kill, so around like 300, 400 gold. So if you're able to generate like a 30, 40 CS lead in the laning phase, then you've basically got a 2 kill advantage over your opponent. So overall, roaming can be very important, but you just gotta make sure you're doing it correctly. You just gotta make sure that you're looking for those high percent chance roam plays, capitalizing on them, because if you continue to make these low percent chance roam plays, you lose a lot of farm in your lane, then you're just gonna find yourself falling very far behind. And that's what I've noticed in a lot of my games. So many players just fall so far behind in the early game because they're making these low percent plays. Moving on to number 3 now, this one is going to have to do with objective priority and objective timers throughout the game. So what I've noticed in almost all my games is that players just really are not focused on what that next objective is on the map and where they should be at a certain time. So it takes no skill at all for you to, every 15 seconds or whenever you have any downtime in your game, just take a look at timers, see when Dragon is spawning next, see when Baron is spawning, and make sure that you're on the right side of the map when those objectives are spawning. Now, something that's so easy to do and that can just lead to single-handedly winning you games is that if you can arrive to the objective before the enemy team does, if you're there like 30 seconds, 40 seconds before the objective spawns, you're getting vision, you're sweeping the enemy's vision, making sure that they got none, then just finding a pick when the enemy tries to face check into you. If your whole team is at an objective before the enemy team, it can just lead to so many good things for your team, and you're just single-handedly going to win games off of good objective control in the mid to late game. So an example of this in the background gameplay here, we're grouped for this dragon, the enemy team is nowhere near and the dragon is about to spawn. The brand ends up trying to come in, trying to get a ward on the dragon. I just jump over the wall, burst him out because we're there before the enemy team is, and we pretty much just win the game off of that pick. That's how important just being at an objective is before the opponent, because that pick I get on brand ends up leading to us getting dragon. We go mid, we get another pick because it's a 5v4 for our team, we get another pick after that, and it just keeps snowballing and snowballing, and the enemy team just keeps trying to fight us in unfavorable situations, and we just end up winning the game off of it. Now, picking uneven fights is something that you also see almost every single game, so it's so important that, especially if you're playing a good team fighting champion or if you have a good team fighting composition, to just always try to stay grouped with your team. If your whole team is grouped and if you want to try to get a basin or something, oftentimes it's going to be better for you to just stay grouped with your team to make sure they don't end up getting caught out, because how games are won or lost a lot of the time, especially in the lower elos, is that whichever team is grouped as 5, they'll find a pick on the opponent when the enemy team is like only grouped as 4 or something, or grouped as 3, and these picks and these uneven fights are oftentimes how games are won or lost. So what you need to do is you either just need to stay with your team or you need to communicate to them what you're looking to do on the map at the moment. So if you need to get a base in, if you need to get an item spike or something, you need to spam ping your team. You need to tell your team to back off or just wait for you. And if they don't end up doing that, then a lot of the time it's going to be better for you to just not get that item spike and just stay with your team, because if you base, they end up forcing a fight and it's a 5v4 and they all end up dying, then that can just lose you the game, and you basing for that item spike is really not going to matter in that situation. And then the last one that's come up in a lot of my games here that I want to go over is that players just tend to not change how they play based on how the lane is going. So for example, if the laner ends up dying once in lane, I've noticed this here, I'll have in the background gameplay, the Kled I had on my team just ended up dying 3 or 4 times in laning phase because after he died once, he kept trying to fight the enemy Mordekaiser. The Mordekaiser is still stronger than him. He's not all of a sudden just going to be stronger than the Mordekaiser and start winning trades, but for some reason he keeps trying to force fights, he keeps trying to trade, and he ends up dying 3 or 4 times in lane, and we almost ended up losing that game because the Mordekaiser ended up almost carrying his whole team. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't look to play aggressive after you've died once in lane. If you find openings, then yes, you should still look to trade, but that goes back to our first tip there. You should be looking to trade off of those cooldowns and off those openings in the laning phase. What this Kled player did here in the background gameplay is he just tried to force like random fights. He didn't really play off of cooldowns at all. He just ran up to Mordekaiser, started trading against him, didn't play off of any cooldowns, and he just ended up dying over and over because of that. And then vice versa, if you do end up getting a lead for yourself in the early game, if you're a couple kills up on the opponent, then look to play smart aggressive, look to continue to starve the opponent and not let them have a chance to get back into the game. Ward up before you end up pushing in lane so you don't end up getting ganked or something, and just continue to like zone them from CS, don't allow them to come back. There's so many games I've seen to where a laner will get ahead a couple kills, but they'll just be sitting in lane, not even really trying to trade and just allowing the enemy to very freely CS in lane, but you just don't want to be doing that. You want to be maximizing your lead in the early game and not allowing them any chance at all to make a comeback. So that is going to be all for the video, guys. Those are 5 of the most game-breaking mistakes that I've noticed so far when climbing from bronze to platinum doing my unranked to diamond series. So if you do want to catch me live streaming that series, if you guys got any questions about this video or just questions in general, be sure to check out my stream. There is going to be a link down in the description below there as always. But with that being said, guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you have yet to already, and I will see you in my next video.